Good evening, everyone. I think I'm comfortable standing. Yeah, thank you. So we are at the fag end of the session, and thank you, DSCI, for extending the opportunity for us to come and share our experience and knowledge in the session. Today we have a very interesting set of panelists who would like to share our experience and knowledge with all of you who are listening offline as well as online. The topic is Consolidated Security Architecture, which is talking about XDR, MDR, cognitive SOC, and so on. So these are technologies and platforms which are going to help to build the future cyber defense systems. So when we talk about cyber defense systems and future cyber technologies, I just want to share a bit of background and context why we need to talk about this, why do we need to really think about this today. We are today living in a world of zero-click attacks, zero-day vulnerabilities, and there is a mandatory requirement for a zero-trust approach, right? We already seen biological pandemics. We will see cyber pandemics going forward. We will see that bullets and bombs used to commit crimes will be replaced by bits and bytes, right, to launch crimes. And we will see countryside wars, which will be like, moving to a virtual invasion kind of wars out there. Our own gadgets can be used as lethal weapons to launch large-scale attacks. And there are already examples which is happening out there, right? And these attacks can be carried out against right from large power stations to even a pacemaker sitting inside our body, right? And one of the researches done by Maryland University, they have actually estimated that there are about more than 2,000 attacks happening in every 39 seconds. That means about nearly 3,000 attacks, targeted attacks happening every minute, right? That's a very big number in a targeted attacks, very, very focused, defined targeted attacks. Now, we are living in a connected world, and in this connected world, IDC estimates there are about 50 billion connected devices are going to be there by 2025. 50 billion connected devices, right? Whether it is across corporates, governments, or even in our own homes, these systems are going to be integrated and connected. What does that mean? That means there are 50 billion potential entry points for a cyber criminal to come inside and launch cyber crimes. And the more connected devices are coming to us at an individual capacity, at a personal level, even at our own homes, and even in our own bodies, because we are going to have digital pills, right, which is again going to be connected. We are going to have smart chips, which is going to be implanted to our body in the future. Similarly, in large enterprises, corporates, the whole ecosystem is embracing a lot of connected digital ecosystems. And that is where we need to look at security in a more integrated fashion. And that is the topic of the discussion today. We'd like to hear some very expert opinion and insights from our distinguished panel from here. So, in my own personal experience, I've seen over a period of time, an organization of different sizes would be leveraging from about 22 security tools and technologies to more than 150 tools and technologies, just to ensure that security is in place. So imagine a large organization using more than 150 security tools and technologies to protect their organization. It's pretty huge. Unfortunately, in spite of having so many tools in place, organizations are getting breached. Why? Because most of these technologies are running in silos. So why do we need to look at more integrated security ecosystem, right? By bringing more consolidated security architecture. So that's the theme today, which we will be looking at more of a future of cyber platforms, right? Today, we need to look at security for an organization more from an intelligence-led security operation, because organizations have to move from a reactive response to proactive defense. It is no more a situation where companies have to look at, okay, if something happens, let me go and see, I can go and fix it. It is not about if, it is all about when, because there are 3,000 targeted attacks every minute happening across the globe, right? And everyone is a target. In that one, there is no discrimination between organizations, between industries, between countries, and between individuals as well. There are targeted attacks, but there is no discrimination for a cyber attack, right? So that is where threat intelligence is going to be very, very important to enable that proactive cyber defense. And then that will enable a kind of an automated proactive defense to ensure that we proactively reduce the risk, right? In that whole exercise, a consolidated security architecture plays a very, very important role. So there are three things what we are looking at today in this discussion. I'd like to have opinions from our panelists. Is one, there are a lot of security platforms coming out there, right? There are estimated about more than 3,000 security tools and vendors, which are recognized tools and technology vendors in the market today globally, right? And customers are adopting security technologies in a very, very fast-paced model. So how are these security platforms really enabling that cyber resiliency for the companies? That is one of the themes that we will be looking at. So I will like to hear some specific insights from Riaz, especially on this topic. So Riaz, actually, when we look at these new age technologies, right, the consolidated architecture in terms of, the new platforms like MDR platforms, XDR platforms. So why do you think that, or do you think that, is it really a requirement of the day, or the customers are really ready for that, or is it a really hype, or is there really a need for these kind of consolidated architecture-based platforms, which are really next-gen platforms in today's world, especially when we are having an expanded or a really increasing attack surface today?
Yeah. I think first of all, I think great preview to the entire subject. See, traditionally, organizations have always focused on prevention. Prevention has always been the favored technology when it comes to stopping some of the cyber attacks which is happening. But then is prevention something that is going to work given the numbers that you spoke about, the type of attacks that we have every minute? As a practitioner, does it really, do I sleep well at the night? The answer is definitely no, with the type of attacks that we have, right? Now, consolidation is a great thing, and I think, my mentors and everybody in the security has been talking about this consolidation, right? But again, I think beyond the prevention, what is important is the detection and response. And not only detection and response, the element of detection and response, but how quickly we are able to detect and how quickly we are able to respond to that, right? So that is where I think the industry is moving. The technology is, essentially moving today. What is critical also is that detection beyond your perimeter, because as the businesses have grown and new business models have actually emerged, right? People are finding different ways to reach their customers. So we have essentially moved, beyond the room, so beyond the local network, right? So now we are trying to access, third-party apps. We are trying to access them through our homes. It is the VPN, it's the cloud, it's the VDI, it's all of those technologies. So, which have actually come in. So how do we get that visibility, what is happening at the each stages or at the life cycle of our network, right? Within the network, at the endpoint, with our vendor or a third party, which is critical in that, right? From all the angles, from the confidentiality angle, from the integrity and from. So to that extent, I think it's not hyped really. It's a requirement. But then yes, I mean, is it mutually exclusive? I don't think so. It's not mutually exclusive. I think it complements some of the tools that we already have today, be it the typical SIEM, be it the antivirus that is there on the endpoint, be it the SCCM, which helps us in pushing the patches and things like that. So, but then yes, how are we going to be assured when we look at our endpoint, what is happening, what is the visibility, where are the anomalies coming in, what are the different types of threats which are existing beyond the signature ones which we were used to? I think that's becoming paramount today, and especially if you are a large organization or a mid-sized organization. considering the current scenario, right, wherein we are no longer limited to a certain place, logically as well as physically, I think it's really important. It's not hyped. However, yes, to what extent we need to adopt those tools, where all we need to, how we need to set it up at the first place is also going to be very important, right? So when we talk about the consolidation, I think we should have a view that what all needs to be consolidated in the first place, right? Because even one weak link is going to that's going to be enough, right? So if we look at some of the examples, typical examples, if we go back, SolarWinds, Log4, all of those things, right? So practically, do these technologies really help, or have they helped in such scenarios? The answer would be to a large extent yes, because they have been able to detect at the first place, because threat hunting is very, very important. Because what it does is, what these tools basically do is, it will tell you that what already has actually penetrated into your network or into your system, which otherwise normal conventional security tools might not tell you, right?
Yeah. I think, yes, you brought a very, very important point of, detection is also very, very important, right? IBM has done a research. In that one, it says, I think every year they publish the report, and I am not seeing a reduction in the number of days to detect a breach. So at an average for an enterprise, it can take about 206 days. That's the average number of days to identify or to detect that you are breached already, right? Or somebody is inside your network. And it can take about more than 314 days to do a recovery, right? That is a kind of timeline it will take to really recover from a breach at an average. It can cost between 3.9 to $6.5 million per breach for an organization, per every breach, right? So detection is very, very important. I very much align to that thought. But the most important thing actually, what are the critical capabilities we need to look at in a next-gen platform like this consolidated architecture platforms to really to make the detection possible in a much more effective way? What are the key capabilities that, in your experience, that you would recommend that can be having in a particular extended platform like an XDR?
Yeah, so see, I think technically maybe, we'll have some, my colleagues might actually throw, more light on that. But yeah, some of the critical functions like, the collaboration, the automation, which is within the platform, right? The threat hunting piece, which is going to be very important, right? Some of those pieces. Then also, in terms of your discovery of assets, right? So whatever new is coming into your, so it should basically be able to provide that, visibility that, whatever new is coming into our network, right? Whatever is hitting from that perspective. Then also definitely from a response perspective, the workflows, the consolidated dashboard where you see, you have a visibility of all, and it is across say operating systems, across devices, and across the surface, the attack surfaces, right? So I think those are some of the things that I would look at definitely, because wherein I'm using my, say, conventionally I'm using my Microsoft Defender to look at something, I'm using Mac today to look at something else, right? Then I'm looking at EPO, to give me some other information, right? So wherein I don't have to look at so many consoles, right? But I get all my information, all that in a single dashboard, which is going to help me. Because we also have to remember that as technology is progressing, people are mostly working, if not all of them, but most of the people today, especially mid managers and above, they are using mobile phones, right, to access their emails or access data, to get a lot of stuff over there. So people traditionally have been more concerned about laptops which they are carrying, right? But no, I don't, we have been too much, concerned about the data that we are carrying every time, everywhere, right? Cars, buses, malls, in washrooms, wherever, right? We are not being concerned. So how are we actually integrating all of those devices also at a single place is going to be very, very important.
Thank you, Riaz. That's bringing into another very, very interesting point. As per our theme says, security for multi-layered systems and expanding attack surface. That's I already talked about one of the strategies. 50 billion devices are going to be connected, right? So I think earlier we are very, very familiar with B2B, B2B, B2C kind of systems. And then slowly the B2, B2C started evolving. Today we are living in a world where there is B2, B2, C2M. M is nothing but the machines, right? So the ecosystem is coming together to create that business to consumers to the machines. So when 50 billions are going to be connected together, it will be an ecosystem of large manufacturing units to telecom networks, to your support ecosystem, to your logistics systems. All these things are going to be connected. So you will see a lot of machine to machine interactions than the human to human interactions in the future. And that is where the whole data exchange is happening. And that is where the whole integrations are going to come together. And that is where we need to enhance or ensure that security in place in that whole multi-layered model, right? So, but the only thing is that actually we are relying upon too much on this smart digital systems where we are kind of compromising our privacy over choosing convenience by relying upon these smart systems, right? So we are outsourcing our memory abilities and capabilities to these smart systems, right? For a large organization, everything is getting automated, including in the large manufacturing unit to an oil exploration center, right? So similarly, even in our own homes, everything is getting automated. So that is where the whole systems is getting connected and becoming digital, intelligent, and smart. And eventually it is all getting connected to the internet, right? So that is where I think the attack surface is really, really getting increased. So one of the attacks against Twitter, where Twitter was shut down, in that whole attack, the attack was launched through CCTV cameras. And that was originated from a mobile phone. So you can see how these connected systems are going to really make that impact globally against targeted organizations in a much more sophisticated attacks. And you can see somebody sitting remotely in some part of the world controlling the chemical control unit in a water supply in Florida and trying to infuse poison into that, right? There are hundreds of examples I can quote when we talk about connected systems. So that is where I think every smart device we are today leveraging in our corporate, in our national or country side requirement, as well as even in our own homes, can be really, really interesting, because these things really enable a lot of convenience for us. It is bringing a lot of advancements to our systems, but it's also bringing a lot of perils, right? That is where, Satya, I would like to hear from your experience that, to protect these kind of smart integrated digital infrastructure, right? What are the trends in terms of the security platforms to improve the cyber resiliency of this connected smart digital infrastructure, which is especially cloud environments, a lot of collaboration platforms, and even a lot of endpoints, which are not only just the smartphone, but also the pacemakers inside our house, inside our heart, and even a smart TV inside our bedroom, right? So what is your thoughts on the platforms, the security platforms evolving to address these security resiliency requirements in a connected ecosystem model?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, I guess. You already given a lot of information in the question itself. Thank you. Yeah. But I just want to throw out some of the additional dimensions when it comes to this unified infrastructure. Think about earlier, like 12 years back, before the cloud evolved, when we need to build a system, you need to actually get a server up. For that, you need to raise a budget. Now, all these systems are consolidated. Today, in few seconds, 1,000 applications are being deployed for Netflix. This is the Netflix story, not mine, right? Which means in few minutes, every minute, there are at least 100 full-fledged applications are being loaded. They may be small, but it is happening. How that's happening? It's happening because there's a consolidation of infrastructure by cloud environment, right? Yeah. That's one. right? It's not stopping there. It's not that the infrastructure which is consolidated. Think about business process as a service. You might have already heard HR as a service, which is innate, which is actually software as a service application. And purchase, you can do payables and receivables all through the different applications. So business processes are outsourced. Again, that's another consolidation you think of. And think in the area of desktops. You believe desktops are desktops which you are carrying and laptops. But in organizations where it's completely remote, they don't want to buy laptops during these COVID. So they ended up with desktop as a service. The number raised up to 26% in last 2 years, and it is growing further up, called desktop as a service available. Now what they are doing, they are just giving some dumb terminal with some, Raspberry Pi or so, but they can work connecting to the cloud and work from there. So this is happening. I'm not speaking about it's a factual story. So think these as a consolidation stories, right? So when these kind of trends are coming in, connecting to what you already mentioned, obviously security have to address these requirements. So what happens to security? Security also comes says, oh, you are the one going to tell something as service. I will also sell security as a service, right? Yeah. That's what we are doing now. You might have already heard in the panels and the booths, right? Everything is offered as a service. You can just subscribe and we can offer you. So what we are telling here earlier, security happens to be a person sitting there making sure everything is compliant, is a single person handling it. Now what we are dividing is we are dividing the security also into pieces and selling it and buying it as a subscription service. That's one method. Yeah. Second method, completely outsource it. Managed data protection services or managed security service offerings, right? And XDR is the large one I can think of, where we are thinking about a unification of security services with one single vendor. One single vendor taking care of extended devices, which includes endpoints, infrastructure, network, and your messaging, almost everything to say, as well as your responses, which means I'll give you people to respond it as well. So which is a complete end-to-end protection service, which is XDR. So these are the things coming in. And while there are few other areas where the services are evolving, like addressing serverless security, addressing containerless security, container security, or addressing API security. These are evolving trends. I think there is no end to it. I think earlier we mentioned the threats are evolving as the way the digital threats are evolving. The number of security offerings and security products are also evolving.
Very, very interesting point, especially on migration to cloud or journey to cloud, whatever you talk about. A lot of ecosystems are moving to cloud, and there are certain ecosystems in the larger digital infrastructure is very difficult also to move to cloud, right? In a large manufacturing organization, a lot of operational technologies in place, legacy technologies in place, which you cannot switch to cloud overnight, right? There are various reasons. Even though today cyber security is a board level agenda, the CISO team is not really ready to really make that agenda implementing, because a lot of dependencies in the existing legacy systems and investment requirements and so on. Most of the companies may be having a foundational security in place, even because of a compliance requirement. But if an organization really have to look at having a next-gen security, consolidated security architecture based platform in place to have at least better cyber resiliency or improved security posture, what are the 2-3 considerations they should be having in mind while selecting as well as implementing a next-gen platform like an XDR based on your experience?
Right. So considering the next-gen platforms, when we are thinking about next-gen, I think first part is visibility, right? What you can't see, you can't protect. First, you should be able to see it. That first part is the visibility. When we are speaking about XDR, can you actually easily integrate all type of devices, what we are speaking? All type mean all mobiles, all IoT, all OT, all my endpoints, desktop, laptop, servers, and also the cloud and other cloud, etc. So that's the visibility we are speaking about. And also show me in a way that I can actually make sure that there is no service which is going outside of it. So that's the first part, visibility. Second aspect is about how can you respond faster. I think you just spoke earlier, and even the previous discussions we heard in healthcare and as well as the fraud cases. The response is something very important, right? How quickly we can respond, how can this tool, the XDR tool, can help with recommendations through AI or ML, right? With the response techniques, playbooks, or even automation and orchestration to a large extent, right? That's the second area to think about. And third area to me, and most important thing is how simple and easy for people to implement. It's about the people part. No matter you bought your $1 billion investment of the tool, if the people can't understand, can't implement, it's complicated, then you might have bought it, but just another monster which would sit there. That's it. Nobody will use it. They'll simply go with their practical Excel-based tool for governance, and then their manual, that macro code for automation. So that's another thing, simplicity and easier implementation, the training for the people, that's the third part. If you have these three core elements, I think that's good.
Thank you, Satya, that's very interesting. So we're talking about security platforms to protect the digital platforms for an organization, right? Now on the other side, a lot of digital platforms, and one of the key areas that we need to consider in today's world is nothing but collaboration platforms, right? That is where probably, Anand, I would like to hear your perspectives, that how do we enable security for collaboration platforms, which is today the vein for our for running the business today, right? So typically, Anand, the lot of collaboration platforms coming today to the market because there's a huge opportunity from a business perspective, and to capitalize the business, speed is all about what matters, right? In the speed, right, how do you think that collaboration platforms really enabling that security for the collaboration platforms?
Good question, Philip. And I think part of my answer is going to allude to what Satya also said, right? 3 years ago, we would have not thought about a collaboration platform as being mission critical. We would say, okay, good to have, important to have, but if it went down, we wouldn't be pressing alarm bells. It's not the same anymore, right? The second is, a lot of it is to do with the users themselves, right? How are we making security easier for the users, right? Sometimes it can be as simple as a product choice, right? Should I use a webinar for a press conference, or should I be using a meeting, right? How do I want to control interaction, many-to-many kind of interactions? So it could be something like a simple choice around the product. A year and a half ago or so, I was admitting my niece into a school here in Bangalore. I'm her guardian here. And I was very touched because I'm a Zoomie, I'm a Zoom fan. And we were doing the orientation program on Zoom, right? And here was a user, like a principal, a business user, walking through how a Zoom class would be done, right? We will be making sure that video is not enabled at the time you join the class. We will have standardized backgrounds. We will control who shares the screen, right? We will control we will have watermarks for certain presentations that happen, right? They were able to walk through and say that something like a waiting room will be available so that you parents can be rest assured that the right set of students are walking into that classroom, right? And they're not going to see content that they're not supposed to be seeing, right? So it's about creating, what's the right word? Maybe it's not feature, but it's about creating a set of features that we can put into the hands of users that actually secures them. And like everything else about collaboration platforms, it should be very, very easy to use. You shouldn't have to jump through hoops, write a macro code on Excel to figure out how I can protect my meeting, right? So whether it be in-meeting controls, right? That's something that we give to the user, that's one. The second is, enterprises, of course, are concerned about, look, how am I going to control the security of my data, right? So end-to-end encryption, obviously, very important. What's happening when data is in motion, right? Are we encrypting data in motion? Are you allowing an enterprise to bring their own set of encryption keys, right? And allowing them to put those encryption keys in play rather than say, okay, maybe I don't want to use Zoom's encryption keys, right? I'm not saying Zoom's encryption keys are not safe. I'm just saying give enterprises the option of doing that so that they feel that or they know that the data is absolutely 100% safe. So we have end-to-end encryption as an option, and we are also compliant with most industry standards. But at the end of the day, a lot of our security is about, one, listening to users, and two, being able to respond very quickly to say, okay, if we need additional security features, can we scale and can we put it into play very fast? I hope I answered the question for you, Philip. Yeah.
Thank you. And in fact, you answered a couple of the following questions as well by default. You know, there are a lot of earlier, you know, companies to compete with each other in their growth journey, right? Today, a company cannot do, I mean, none of the company can do it individually. They have to really collaborate with an ecosystem, and that ecosystem has to really compete with another ecosystem to really grow, right? Whether it is your technology infrastructure or your supply chain infrastructure or your manufacturing infrastructure or your customer experience, right? So collaboration is the only one that can make possible in today's pandemic situation. And I think going forward, that is becoming the norm of hybrid working model, right? So when we talk about collaboration platform, definitely the communication from a collaboration is very, very important. A lot of collaboration platforms even coming to support other business requirements in the overall scenario, right? So in this digital infrastructure, what I talk about, digital infrastructure is nothing but your IT infrastructure, applications, web applications, mobile phones, your data, your identity, your lot of things which are is coming to your, you know, the so-called technology and digital umbrella put together is called digital infrastructure. In this whole digital infrastructure, you have to really again create that ecosystem to really support your business growth. You may have to really run across a lot of vendors and OEMs to get that technology ecosystem or digital infrastructure ecosystems in place. So Srini, I think, yeah, thank you, Bala, Anand, for sharing the insights. Probably Srini, to the question is actually, you know, what are your thinking, I mean, you know, thoughts about, you know, when we look at that supply chain ecosystem, right, coming together to enable the digital infrastructure in the form of OEMs, subscription models, right? What are the kind of threat vectors, you know, we need to really look at when we look at the larger cyber resiliency agenda?
Yep. Very interesting discussion happening and lots of insights from the sales perspective and technical perspective and also real implementation perspective she has explained. So when I got this topic and I had a chance to revise my existing discussion with my mentor, he started his own firm in US and he was growing. Actually the business was good and I was asking, because I am a CISO, I specifically asked about the security and he was telling, yeah, always security, what's happening? So I said, so you guys are using the email and messaging communication and you guys are sharing the data through internet and lots of APIs are extended and your endpoints are used and you are also using the cloud for platform. And he said, I am okay with the third party who are supposed to provide and who are expert in the industry. So from the cloud, so there are lots of access control related issue happen and lots of data has been moved from the infrastructure and laptops. They doesn't know it was infected or it was properly updated and its scan was happened. So crisis of resource also. So I said, sir, okay, so how you are managing your solutions? I bought my solution, I have installed and it's doing itself. It's nothing innovation thing required. And now currently what happened, it's everything is collapsed and he lost the huge number of data and GDPR was enforced and huge penalty and he is no more now, you can say. No more with the business actually, sorry for that. And he is again realized that this was my mistake. So coming to our relating to our topic, so it was point architecture, you can say multi-point architecture, because it's Xylo is managed and it was not properly handled. And the adding to what Riaz has mentioned, there is no detective mechanism and he was looking on the preventive mechanism, because I have installed antivirus, how come the virus will be affected? So it's all. So requirement is that, so he doesn't have the visibility and transparency on what he is doing and what he has purchased and installed as a part of security. So that is where our consolidated security architecture comes. Lots of you is also thinking of IoT devices. You was discussing 3 years back. I'm going to use our 5G internet and also IoT related activities. I'm going to implement all AI and MI. Now is nothing, because the architecture, the collaborative architecture was not there in the place, and that was because he is digitally connected. This requirement is should be add in the infrastructure.
Thank you, Srini. I think you brought a very important point that, the decision was choosing convenience over privacy and resilience. I think that made the whole damage in place, right? So, as I mentioned, cybersecurity is becoming a board level agenda today. So boards are looking at to appoint a director level position, or a board of director level position, or at least an independent director to look at the cyber resiliency for the organization. That's where global organizations are moving to. Now, in this whole digital infrastructure evolution, right, there is a culture of retained surveillance, because everything is connected, everything is captured, stored, processed, and leveraged somewhere by somebody. So we know only the endpoints which is enabling the transaction, but eventually that whole ecosystem is running behind. Whether it is data, whether it is video, whether it is everything is getting that in that capture process, right? When this is going to be in the hands of wrong guys, things can go really bad, right? And we have seen that motivations of the cyber criminals are also changing. Really changing, and really changing fast as well. In the past, people were attacking companies just to breach and take the data which they can go and sell it to monetize. Now slowly, the nature started changing into disruption of the business. I don't have the time, otherwise I could have quoted hundreds of examples how businesses got disrupted. But today, if you look at it, the nature is nothing but destruction, right? That is how the world is really changing, right? I think personally what I see, it is not only applicable to large corporate. I think we had a lot of examples in the previous panels about financial fraud transactions, which is applicable to each one of us, right? And relevant for each one of us. I think personally, in the future, any crime in the world may be a cyber crime or a cyber-led crime. And that can be from a small financial theft to a large war, right? A significant global war can be either led by cyber. It may be a cyber or cyber-led crime, right? So we are already at war with invisible enemies, right? People who are nameless, faceless, and stateless, right? So in this whole thing, that is where organizations have to really move from that reactive response to proactive defense, which can be, I think, achieved by having this consolidated architecture in place, right? From a security resiliency point of view. I personally see that most of the organizations are in their foundational security maturity. I think definitely they should be looking at more advanced security operations. When I talk about security operations, it's not just about monitoring of this whole attack, right? It is much beyond that. Your vulnerability management, your the entire cyber defense operations, right? To advanced, then next gen, then cognitive, right? Attack surface is increasing, and we cannot scale people proportionately to really do the monitoring and detection and prevention, right? That is where we need to adopt to this intelligence-led automated security. So that just like the way our devices and our equipments and infrastructure is getting more intelligent and smart, our security systems also have to be intelligent, integrated, smart, and more automated to ensure that we have that security at scale in a more proactive manner, right? So everything is controlled by software today. So that means we are living in a software defined world, right? Today, anybody is getting access to that software can literally control everything, right? I've seen a video that where, this small drones are being used for targeted killing, which can do profiling of an individual, which can individually target that person and shoot that person with a bullet. No person is required. It can just fly around and then specifically monitor all the people and then identify that targeted person and then kill straight away with a bullet. So that's where the world is moving. Now imagine to kill 100 terrorists, right, in a big city. You don't have to really bomb the city. You need to just configure this 100 AI-powered, smart drones, which has a weapon inside this and can go and do a social profile and kill it. Now imagine if that is landing in the hand, if a cyber criminal is able to breach that, and what damage he or she can do by sitting remotely, killing innocent people or even our rollers, right? So the damage can be much, much more, right? It's all about how do you control that whole software-defined ecosystem, the digital infrastructure, right? And that is where we need to look at more holistically, because it is not only just your server, storage, and network, your endpoints, your identity access management, because your machines are going to have identities, because the machines can be breached, right? Not only people, right? Or not only just applications. Even every endpoint can be breached. When I say endpoint, it is not only just the laptops and the mobile phones, even a CCTV camera. A lot of attacks happening from the CCTV camera, right? So definitely I think organizations to move from the foundational security operations to advanced SOC, which is more automation, SOAR, security orchestration, automation response capabilities to be in place, more integration to be in place. Then you need to have next gen. Next gen is where you leverage a lot of advanced analytics based detection and prevention. And then last one is cognitive security operation. Cognitive security operation is nothing but where you leverage a lot of AI based capabilities to identify risk in advance and then do a proactive healing, right? And then intelligent detection, self-healing. So that's where the world is moving. And this is where I think we need to bring in a secure by design mindset and a defense in depth capability to our security architectures and even in our digital infrastructure, right? Probably in the interest of time, probably each one of you, if you can just share probably a minute to share your thoughts on enabling the secure by design in this whole consolidated architecture and in our digital infrastructure. If you can just probably start with Bala, if you can just share a few thoughts.
So Philip, first, it's not all doom and gloom. Huh? I appreciate the analogy, but I think it's not necessarily all doom and gloom, right? Businesses will continue to lead in terms of direction, and security and cybersecurity will follow, right? Let me try and illustrate this with an example. We now know that we can't run forecasts for an enterprise just using spreadsheets, right? So you need a CRM. Are you going to build your own CRM? Good idea. Likely it's going to be built on spreadsheets. But you'll go procure a CRM that has security built into it by design, right? Now, you know that in the last 2 years, your services team, your sales teams, and other folks who need to use the CRM are spread remotely, right? So are you going to build a collaboration tool on your own on top of the CRM? Or are you going to integrate a collaboration solution that has security built in by design, right? Let's look at something like KYC. You have people who are experts in the area of KYC running a business to say, I will get the loan, I will advertise for it, I'll get the loan, and I will onboard them onto a nationalized bank or a public sector bank. But in the middle, you've got this layer of eKYC, wherein you need the video, and there's a lot of security involved in terms of data that's being shared. Would you want to build that on your own? Or would you want to go to a collaboration platform that has security as a part of it by design? So I think the trajectory is going to be, and I think Riaz has alluded to this multiple times there, applications that are able to provide security by design. I mean, it's inherent, and they keep the user and what the user needs to do at the center, where they make security very easy for the user. Those kind of applications are going to continue to grow and thrive. Yes, there will be times when suddenly we'll see a global event. That global event will call upon companies to scale and scale very fast and respond very fast. In some cases, respond very fast to security, right? And that time we'll have to listen and say, look, we'll make these changes and we will take care of what customers are saying and move ahead. And I think my point here is business will continue to drive this trajectory very strongly. But thanks for the question. Thanks for that, Philip. It was good.
Thank you. Anand, Riaz.
Yeah, thanks very much. No, what I would say is that adoption, essentially, for adoption, essentially there has to be an assessment, because whatever is your strategy, it has to commiserate the risk, right? That's very important. Now, whenever we are adopting such technologies, we also would need to keep in mind that, migration is painful, so we will really need to understand it from a very long-term strategy. It's not like, you know, building building a, you know, say, what do you call, electronic city to slick board, a flyover, which does not suffice, or which is out of, you know, which doesn't serve its purpose even after, you know, when you're developing something, so it has to be in that context, right? Because technology is changing, threats are changing, fraudsters are becoming more sophisticated. So XDR, SSE, and EDR is not, today we are talking about it, maybe, you know, tomorrow the way the landscape is changing, you know, so probably that is also not going to be sufficient tomorrow. So it is progressing. I agree. I mean, it is not a doom sort of a situation, but as long as we are, you know, keeping ourselves up to it, keeping up with those challenges. And we also have to remember that, you know, adopting these tools, as I said earlier, is not going to eliminate what we are doing today. It is only going to complement that. I will not have a Windows, Microsoft or Windows Defender to say that, you know, okay, to convince an auditor that I have an antivirus, or if I put an EDR, I cannot convince an auditor probably today to say that, okay, I am doing my vulnerability assessment, right? Or I'm doing my penetration testing, you know, I still need a scanner over there, right? So similarly, you know, I think, you know, when we are looking at it, we would need to prioritize it as per the risks that we have, as per the products we have, the services we have, as per the, and then we will need to. So I think, you know, that's what I would say.
Thank you, Riaz. Satya, your comments on secure by design?
Yep. So I think we all spoke about acceleration, right? So let's think about last 2 years, what happened, right? The small shops, like even the people who sell onions, have a digitized world. They are living in the digitized world, even though they don't know what that means in the back end, right? There is a code with which they put it on the board and they get the money on the mobile. So it's all digitization. What is this leading into as a digital, hyperscale digital acceleration, which is leading to cloud and many other trends. So when we are speaking about such an accelerated world, obviously there are threats increasing, and the threat landscape increased, and ransomware increased, and almost all the things. As you said, it's not all doom and doom. When there is money, obviously there are thieves, and there are people who try to exploit. It continues to happen, right? As the way I like this line in Doom too, right? Chor chori nahi karega, to police ka kya kaam hai? Right? So all our jobs will be lost if they are not there. I'm very sorry to say this. This is a wrong way to see it. But the point what I'm making is, there will be always exploiters. There is a money, that's why there are frauds. Now the money is in the data, so there are exploits continue to happen. To me, how I want to give it as a last statement is, I think you all of you like cars, right? Just I'll take example of a car. How you will test a car, it's all depending upon the braking system, which is how many seconds, if at all you are running in a BMW, you go up to 160, 200, but in how many seconds you stop. That is how you test the car. Not how fast you go, but how well you can brake. How can you stop faster, right? This is the system, what we are speaking about as a control system, the braking system which actually defines your acceleration, right? So that is what we speak here as security by design. Unless you have that security system, that I think automatic braking system, I think ABS or whatever. So that is not designed within our security. This hyper acceleration what you are doing will doom to fail unless you fit that automatic braking system that is security controls within that. So I think I am already seeing that's happening. You might have seen if you want to log into Amazon account as an admin, it by default asks for a two-factor authentication, right? It's important for you to do it. And if you are putting something in S3 bucket, S3 itself will tell you, you need to have a password, right? You can't keep it public. They're already telling you, but obviously there are people are not practicing it, that's a different case. The point what I mean to say is, there are systems in place to build the security by design, and it is going as a practice more and more by the day goes, right? That is the season, like the way 12 years back when we said cloud is coming, like the way I am saying today, security by design is already here. it is going to grow. And we are already seeing it. With that, I close.
Thank you, Satya. Probably, Srini, if you can have your few thoughts, we can conclude with this.
See, with the new digital era, we have thinking of consolidated security architecture. Thinking itself, you have already started designing yourself in the security perspective. Okay, how you are taking into the implementation with the help of best practices. So, providing exceptional approval to CISO to have the full access not going to help you. So, security by design. So, everybody in the same level and segregating the level of access and how we are practicing your policy and procedures, and consolidated security architecture will help you to improvise the security posture, but architecture plus best practices will give you the best design in the security itself.
Thank you, Srini. Probably, yeah, we're coming at the fag end of the session. I'd like to share one quick example, right, why this is all important, right? The security by design, consolidated architecture, and that proactive defense, why it is important, because I don't want to disclose. See, whatever I'm sharing is based on my past experience as well as publicly available information. I'm not, I just want to put the disclaimer. Again, this example is available in the public domain. Even before a smart car, the autonomous car, the driverless car is getting launched by a premium automotive player, their whole design and everything was breached, leaked, okay. The cyber criminals, they designed a PKE device, passive keyless entry device, which is nothing but the key to open this automated car, the driverless car, from anywhere. And interestingly, even before the car is getting launched in the market, this device is available in the dark web to buy, just $1,200. So literally, if you imagine the ABC car is getting launched, you're proudly buying that, probably even before your first drive, it can be taken away by somebody, right? And it can be taken away remotely as well. And it's possible because it's all completely controlled by internet. So the bad guys have to make just one time right, and we have to make it right all the time, right? And that is where security by design is very, very important, even in our own home, right? So this is an age of brush passes, dead drops, and micro dots, right? And we have to be prepared for the bolt from the blue. And the code blue can be called anytime, right? I think it is not just the responsibility of the OEM. With all this consolidated architecture, it is not only just the responsibility of the security teams. It is not only just the responsibility of the board. It is an ecosystem responsibility. It is a shared responsibility. I think with all these leading advanced technology, I mean, at least I was very fortunate to work on building systems which are 10 years ahead of time, whether it's in the AI side or in the cyber side. But one thing I consistently tell all my stakeholders I come across, including my clients or in my own organizations in the past and even current, is that we cannot forget about the fundamentals and basics. 98% of the time, what I've experienced in my own, what I've seen in the past is a breach happened because there is some fundamental thing was missing. Yes, cyber criminals may be using the sophisticated technology and tool, but eventually they'll be leveraging one of the fundamentals which was missing in the organization. So I think we all have a responsibility to make it safer and better. So it is very, very important to really move from the react and repent mode to a detect and respond mode, as Riaz was mentioning. And not only just predict and prevent, but also proactive and protect. And cyber resilience is a shared responsibility. I think we all have a responsibility to come together. And thank you, DSCI, for making this platform for us to come together, share our thoughts. At least this is a very, very close community to help organization to be more cyber resilient. Thank you so much, each one of the panelists, for sharing your thoughts. Thank you. We are having a very limited audience, but thank you so much for your patience and time to listen to this. And if you have any questions, probably we can spend 1 or 2 minutes to take any questions if you have. Yes.
Yes, hi, my name is Mukul And when we talk about XDR in particular, where we are trying to integrate multiple security point solutions, right? There is a challenge which we hear oftenly from our customers around how do we integrate the security analytics, which forms the backbone for an XDR or a consolidated security strategy. So would love to hear some thoughts on, how do we integrate so many log sources into something which is, resulting into an actionable intelligence for the organizations.
I come from an analytics background. Probably I'll share a few thoughts based on my experience. See, I will see technology as an enabler. Tool is an enabler. It's all about how do we leverage this, right? If I come across 10 different customers, 10 of them are in different or 10 different maturity level in their digital infrastructure, in their security capability, in the security maturity, in their journey, tools, technology. Everybody is at different levels. I have seen even regulatory controlled organizations are having not even the mandatory minimum baseline security in place. I come across organizations like that. Now, in this whole expanding or increased attack surface, there are technologies, or all the new age technologies are coming with the capability to onboard that digital infrastructure into the systems, in the capacity of APIs or custom connectors or even other mechanisms to get that data into the place. But are we very clear what do we need from the data? And even do we have the visibility to ensure that we have all the required data in place? Or required data, when I say from your digital infrastructure, I see even large organizations today struggling that they don't have a proper CMDB. They don't have any idea about how many infrastructure they have, whether they are end of life, whether they are really having a support, how many vulnerabilities they have in place, and you don't have any visibility about your crown jewels, which is nothing but crown jewel applications. That is a state in most of the organization. I would strongly recommend to have a visibility, as I think Satya was mentioning. Visibility of your digital infrastructure is one of the fundamental things that you should look at before even looking at tools and data, because once you have the visibility, you know what kind of data to be brought in. Once you have the measures that you define, it may be KPIs. So you can use analytics, security analytics in two ways. One for detection, the other one for control, right? Whatever you are able to measure, you will be able to control. The measurement is nothing but how efficient you are able to detect a threat, how efficient you are able to respond to a threat. That is a KPI. But on the other side, the same security analytics can be used to really identify a threat much well in advance, or a breach much well in advance, so that it can help you to proactively defend it. One side from the threat detection perspective, the analytics, where you can use it for self-healing applications, self-automated threat detection and prevention. On the other side, you can use the same analytics, security analytics, to have better control, to improve your cyber resiliency, mean time to detect, mean time to respond. Who are your top risky insiders? How do you do that? You can use security analytics to identify your top 10 security insiders or insider threats. 62% of the breaches are happening because of an insider, knowingly or unknowingly, deliberately or not purposefully. So you can use security analytics in multiple areas, but it is all about, you need to be very clear which are the use cases you are going to address the security analytics with, and what you really need from a data perspective. Then you bring a tool or technology to really address that. I'm not sure if I answered that question, but it's a broad question, but very interesting question. A need of the hour, probably. Satya, would you like to?
Yeah, I'll just like to add, right? So what you are asking is, how do we collect logs across multiple infrastructure? You have IoT devices, you have OT devices, you have different cloud environment, you have on-premise device, and you also have endpoints, right? When you have this many devices across, when we are speaking about the consolidation, that's main part is, first, as I think already mentioned by Philip, it's about visibility. Second part is collection of the logs. How easily you can integrate all these devices backwards. There are tools which actually, I don't want to call the name, but so, but if it's okay, ArcSight does have.
You can share, definitely.
I can definitely give an example. Yeah, ArcSight does have connectors, let's say, for IoT devices, OT devices, as well as the cloud. To connect, the connector is to collect the logs and then give it to a place. What is that place? So you need to have a collection source, a single place where you are collecting all this, right? So that could be a secure data lake, or it could be your own ESM or whatever the infrastructure you have planned it. So there are mechanisms available to actually address the multi-cloud demands as well as IT/OT demands with the collaboration tools. Like, there are tools which are available which collects the logs from OT and IoT. It's not possible for the traditional ArcSight to go there, but there are Karamba and other tools available which collect that information and give it back to ArcSight. So that way, we are actually able to capture all the logs what necessary. For example, if it's endpoint, those logs also could be captured through the log agents. We all know to a large extent, but only when we come to these advanced systems, you might wonder, okay, how do I do this? These are really raw material. So there are agents or there are tools available which actually collects that logs and send it in a format readable by the SIEM. Make sense?
Okay.
Just want to add, I mean,
sure.
when you particularly are talking about an XDR, so you're talking about all the network visibility, what is coming in, what's coming out. And typically you would talk about an XDR which use AI, behavioral analytics to give you. So there are tools, as Satya said, she talked about connectors, but these guys are saying these are sensors. So these sensors basically are put, in your, basically on your firewalls, which allow traffic in and out, and then they run the AI in the back end. So roughly around, I can tell you around 1,000 anomalies they can actually learn over a period of time, and they can give you great insights, right? What is the data which is moving out? How much of it is going to the cloud? How much it's going to the secondary storage devices? Somebody is trying to penetrate to your network. So I think probably if you're talking about an XDR, a next-gen XDR, then those sensors are a great place, and your OEM is definitely going to help you in the integration of that. So fixed or integrated at the places within your firewall, which will give the visibility of where your traffic is going and going out and coming in, and then give you those behavioral analytics.
Thank you, Satya and Riaz. Any other questions, thoughts? I think we are already at the top of the hour. Time is up. If there is no more, I mean, we are here around, more than happy to share our thoughts if there is any additional questions. Thank you so much once again. Really appreciate it, and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.